Sweden's recent decisions to procure both the Polish Piorun man-portable air defense system and Saab's RBS 70NG short-range ground-based air defense system reveal a decisive step in building a multi-layered shield for its armed forces and critical infrastructure. Taken together, these purchases are worth nearly $500 million and reflect the seriousness with which Stockholm is approaching the challenge of defending its skies in an era defined by drones, low-flying cruise missiles, and hybrid warfare tactics. For a country that only formally joined NATO in 2024, the timing and the nature of these acquisitions are deeply strategic. And they speak volumes about how Sweden perceives the threats in the Baltic region and its new responsibilities within the alliance. Sweden's entry into NATO marked the end of decades of neutrality and the start of a new chapter where its defense posture has to be fully interoperable with allied forces. The geography of the country makes it especially exposed. The Baltic Sea, the island of Gotland, and long coastlines are all potential pressure points if Russia were to escalate tensions. Recent events in Ukraine, combined with Russian drone incursions over NATO territory, have made it clear that the first line of defense in modern warfare is the ability to counter low-altitude aerial threats. That explains why Stockholm is focusing first on portable and short-range systems, rather than exclusively relying on expensive, high-end interceptors. The Piorun system, purchased from Poland at a value of roughly €274 million, is one of the clearest examples of lessons learned from the war in Ukraine. Based on the earlier Grom design, Piorun has proven itself effective against helicopters, drones, and low-flying aircraft. With a range of about 6.5 kilometers and engagement altitudes up to 4 kilometers, it provides an affordable and highly mobile way to protect troops on the ground. Its infrared seeker has been improved to resist countermeasures, and the fact that it is man-portable makes it ideal for flexible defensive bases, forward positions, or critical infrastructure. The political symbolism is also important. Stockholm is not only buying a capable system, but also strengthening ties with Warsaw, one of NATO's most outspoken voices on Russia. In parallel, the Swedish Defence Materiel Administration placed a 1.5 billion SEK order for Saab's RBS 70NG, with deliveries expected in 2027 to 2028. This system represents the latest evolution of Sweden's own short-range air defense lineage, with the next-generation sighting system and bolide missiles guided by laser beam riding. With an effective range of 9 kilometers and engagement altitude of 5 kilometers, the RBS 70NG is a more sophisticated complement to Piorun. It can engage targets at night, is highly resistant to jamming, and has the accuracy to defeat larger drones and even cruise missiles. By choosing this system, Sweden is not only reinforcing its military capability, but also investing in its domestic defense industry, ensuring that Saab remains a pillar of European security. When viewed together, these acquisitions are the building blocks of a layered air defense network. At the lowest level, Piorun teams can protect infantry units, convoys, and isolated sites from drone swarms or helicopter raids. Above them, RBS 70NG provides a more capable and longer-reaching umbrella to cover battalions, bases, and infrastructure nodes. In the medium layer, Sweden has already discussed the possibility of acquiring or expanding systems such as NASAMS or IRIS-T-SLM, which would give coverage against fighter aircraft and longer-range missiles. The logic is simple. No single system is enough, but when combined, multiple layers force an adversary to expend far greater effort to penetrate defenses. It is the same model that Norway and Germany are applying, and Sweden is moving rapidly to align itself with that NATO standard. Strategically, the purchases serve multiple functions beyond the technical specifications. They reassure NATO allies that Sweden is serious about its role in collective defense, especially given its location on the alliance's northern flank. They send a deterrent message to Russia, signaling that Swedish airspace will not be an easy avenue for harassment with drones or low-flying assets. They also reinforce industrial partnerships. Cooperation with Poland diversifies Sweden's defense suppliers, while continued investment in Saab keeps critical expertise and production capacity at home. In the broader context of European defense, Stockholm is positioning itself as both a consumer and a contributor, one that understands the importance of resilience. There are, however, clear challenges and limitations. First and foremost is financial. The Swedish government has already acknowledged that the ambitious goal of raising defense spending to 3.5% of GDP by 2030 may need to be delayed until 2032. Large acquisitions like Piorun and RBS 70NG add pressure to the budget, especially when considered alongside commitments to support Ukraine, where Stockholm has pledged billions of krona in new aid packages. Balancing external commitments with domestic rearmament will be a delicate task for policymakers. Second, there is the issue of manpower. Introducing two different systems simultaneously requires extensive training pipelines, not only for operators but also for logistics and maintenance staff. Third, the balance between foreign purchases and domestic development must be carefully managed to avoid long-term dependence, while still ensuring timely delivery of capabilities. Despite these hurdles, the trajectory is clear. Sweden is moving fast to close the gaps in its air defense and is prioritizing solutions that are proven, interoperable, and scalable. The urgency is understandable. The war in Ukraine has demonstrated that the absence of adequate air defenses leaves troops and civilians alike highly vulnerable to devastating drone and missile strikes. For Sweden, the lesson is being applied proactively rather than reactively. The choice to combine Polish, Swedish, and potentially other NATO systems reflects both pragmatism and a recognition of the need for redundancy. The wider implications are significant. With these acquisitions, Sweden is not just strengthening its own defenses, but also contributing to the overall resilience of NATO in the Baltic theater. If Russia were to attempt coercion or hybrid aggression, the existence of multiple layers of defense complicates planning and raises the cost of any provocation. It also demonstrates that smaller and mid-sized nations can take concrete steps to defend themselves without waiting for larger allies to provide coverage. In a sense, Stockholm is offering a model for how to integrate national industry, allied partnerships, and operational needs into a coherent defense modernization plan. Looking ahead, it is highly likely that Sweden will continue to expand this layered approach. The addition of medium-range systems, greater integration with NATO command and control, and investments in radar and electronic warfare will round out the architecture. By the end of this decade, Sweden may possess one of the most sophisticated and comprehensive short to medium-range air defense networks in Northern Europe. This will not only protect its own territory, but also give NATO greater confidence in its northern flank. For Russia, the message is clear. Sweden is no longer a neutral bystander, but an armed and organized participant in collective security. In sum, the twin acquisitions of Piorun and RBS 70NG symbolize Sweden's rapid adaptation to the realities of modern warfare. They are not isolated purchases, but part of a deliberate effort to construct a layered, multi-source air defense shield. They carry political, industrial, and strategic weight that goes far beyond their price tags. While challenges remain in funding, manpower, and integration, the direction is unmistakable. Sweden is arming itself for an era where drones, missiles, and hybrid threats define the battlefield, and it is doing so with both urgency and clarity. For its NATO partners, this is a welcome development. For Moscow, it is another reminder that the window of vulnerability in the Baltic is closing fast.